This is a Purple Line Express.
Hi, everyone. My name's Suzanne Sossin. I represent Arper for Coyne Associates here in Chicago. We're in the Arper showroom right now.
I broke even. I didn't make a bunch of money, but Sofia Coppola showed up and it was this wonderful event.
His use of color feels so natural because of the textures of the walls you see them on.
This is Merchandise Mart.
So welcome to the Wyzendale Weekly Wrap-Up. It's one of those, I forgot what they call those, where the words rhyme together.
Oh,
There's
alliteration?
There's a name, yeah.
It's like my name, Sarah Shewey.
Yes.
And I tend to like other people who also have alliterative names.
Yes.
For no reason at all.
Yes. Well, you said your name, so we have the literally mover and shaker, Sarah Shewey.
It's like, shh, ew, Shewey.
Shewey. Introduce yourself. So who are you, Sarah?
Yes, hi. I'm Sarah Shewey. I'm the founder and CEO of Happily. And Happily is the largest network of freelance experiential producers, designers, creators. And I'm happy to be here. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's lots I can say about me.
Awesome. How did that begin? I remember the other day I was like, how did you get into this? You're like, I started this when I was in college. You start planning events when you're in college, but
Yeah. Actually, getting into events, I had this friend in college who her dad owned a club in Seattle, and we went to USC in LA. Nice. And she used to go to all these A-list celebrity clubs, and she'd be like, you should come. And I was like, oh, I'm underage. I don't know. Can I get arrested if I say that?
I think that's I think there's a statute of limitation.
20 years later.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Depends on how,
Anyway, so she would get into these clubs, and then, so I had a friend in college, and she would get into these A-list clubs with Ben Affleck and stuff like that. And I was
nice.
like, oh, I want to go. And she started throwing parties. And I started watching her throw parties, and I was like, oh, I can do this better. And through I saw how much access that events gets you to all these really interesting people. And I really loved the band Weezer back in college. It's so embarrassing. But yeah, I loved the band Weezer. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do an after party for Weezer's comeback. And then I threw this concert, and Sofia Coppola showed up, you guys.
What? So wait, you piggybacked off of their show, and you're like, I'm just gonna throw a weekend
and then I booked a venue that was I had to book an 18 and over venue because I wasn't 21 yet, and then I booked a venue, and Weezer had a really was early with their community messaging boards, and they had a community manager before everyone always had band managers, but they were you can't get on the bus, but they had that, and this guy who would really just engage with the fans. And so there was a really strong fan community. And so I would just post on the Weezer board, I'm going to do this after party, and it would give updates and, all this stuff. And that became, I broke even. I didn't make a bunch of money, but Sofia Coppola showed up, and it was this wonderful event. Weezer didn't show up, but it was great. It was so fun.
Yeah. You did it just purely off of your interest in throwing events.
Yeah,
Very
totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But there's also I studied communication and film production in school. Okay. And I was also doing research about visual symbols, how visual symbols can change group behavior.
Interesting.
And the jump from actually sort of looking at a Nike logo, a swoosh that says just do it, and I was looking at cults and Scientologists and how they would use symbols to create sort of this group think dynamic is actually through rituals that are encased in events. Mm-hmm. So I became really interested, as well on a sort of intellectual level, right? About the purpose and the power of events.
Interesting. And how did you come to the simplicity of your mark then?
Of Happily?
Yeah. And before you dive into that, I'm going to make such an old comment. Can you hand me a pillow so I can put it behind my back?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I was trying to lean back, but it's a little too deep.
Far, yeah.
I apologize.
There you go.
Shout out to Arper and Suzanne for hosting us today in the Arper showroom. Stay tuned for a little bit information about the products that you're seeing and seeing here after the show. So, yeah. So anyways,
Arper's cool.
I digress. The simplicity of the Happily logo. The face.
Oh, the little smiley face?
Yeah, smiley
That's Shada. Shada is on our team, and she came up with it. We were doing a rebrand because we just had like a Happily word mark, which I still think like needs an update, but we were like, I can't like mess with it right now, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, we need a favicon because we were just using like the H, the first letter of Happily, and I was like, can't we put a smiley face in there? But like emojis seemed too like sophomoric, and I had her do sort of this rebrand while we had a little bit of downtime, like pivoting to virtual events, and I think it was like that whole virtual, like there's just like a lot of like design language around like the cyberspace. And so our word mark is just like our font, which is also like a really generic font. It's like Open Sans. Yeah. But like our font with like an old school smiley face, and
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, I love what she came up with. That it was really smart.
That's awesome.
She had a Manipur.
So that was the pre-pandemic pivot, I guess. How long was Happily out before the pandemic?
Yeah, that was a pandemic pivot. And I started this idea of this like marketplace like pre-Uber actually. Nice. So like 2012 was when I was working at the TED conferences at the time, and 2012 was the year that I left TED to start this new venture. So which is now 10 years old.
Awesome. Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you.
I hear tons of fans clapping right now. So that's awesome.
Well, most businesses don't last that long, you know. So you don't know these things until you step back and you're like, oh, that is an accomplishment. Great.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're already on to like the next thing, right? So
yeah, and we talk about like phases too. Like, I guess what phase would you say Happily is in? Like, is this like Happily 3.0, Happily 4.0, or because you continuously evolve, right?
Yeah, I would love for like Happily to be like the Madonna of event companies, where like a Madonna, like you can't say she has phases. She just has like different moods, that she goes through.
She evolves though too.
She
right?
reinvents herself a lot. Yeah. So yeah, you know what? It's really funny because I have reinvented Happily quite a few times. And like, we actually started when I was like testing out this idea of a marketplace. It was like, people thought it was crazy. Like, you can't hire humans off the internet, and right. I was like, and they're like, for events. And we started in weddings because I wanted to have like a very exacting customer that was going to sort of demand for something, and then also something where it was easy to make something kind of turnkey. So for a while, like, when I was doing TED, I was the TED girl. And then, I started doing this weddings platform. We just focused our communications in the wedding space. And then I became like the weddings girl. Mm-hmm. And then we went virtual, and everyone's like, oh, you do in-person shows? And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, big ones too, So it's really funny, like, how people can meet you at a certain point in time, and because they have zero context, right? Yeah. They just make their own assumptions.
Sure.
So it takes like things like podcasts and stuff to unpack.
I was at an event last week, and I was talking to an associate, let's say, and then some other guy came up and he's like, hey, Felix, what have you been up to? Because, no one has been really getting out for events. And he's like, are you still doing that little podcast? Like, is that what, are you still running that? And my friend, he just kind of like lifted his eyebrow and just like took a drink because it was so funny, right? Because this guy automatically just assumes that we do podcasts, right? This is what we do. Whereas like, no, like we are designers. We do the events, and people do often kind of just think of you that one way, right?
Right. But, humans are like, multi-dimensional beings, right?
They are.
So I think this is like a really important thing to like say and reiterate, as we're all kind of coming back into trying to like create a new normal, a newly normal like socialization pattern, right? And being in virtual space, like especially really, it's easy to be siloed in thinking.
Yeah, and so you are not in the States right now, right?
I'm in Taipei.
What's
that's
like?
Current home through the pandemic. It's really great, I don't really speak Chinese, so I've been learning, and it's really fantastic to be challenged,
Yeah, for sure.
every day with just how to connect, gain new language skills. And through the pandemic, actually, like Taiwan only had they had 0 cases of COVID for most of the time.
Gotcha.
So, and the way that they did it was just, there is really strong social cohesion. Everyone wears masks, and they all kind of police each other. There was a point where there was a spike where it was 1,000 cases in the whole country, right? And everyone, kind of shut their doors, and the government they were telling restaurants and telling shops oh, you can open. They're we don't think it's safe for everyone yet,
Wow,
so it's just it was very different, than we were living, I'm from Los Angeles, and we were living in LA, and it was just people racing to buy their toilet paper, and just very dog eat dog. So I've been really, grateful, to live in a place like that.
That's awesome. Are the, I guess, have you attended events, or I guess what I'm getting to is seeing different type of events, or seeing way different styles are, right? Because you do events kind of all over the country here, and I'm sure every event is different within the city that it's at. Do you see a lot of trends like that, or maybe personality trends? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think that events are at least the way that we approach them, they're little capsules for specific communities. Okay. And so I think about about people in more of a global way, right? Where there are hipsters, and there is a hipster style of home that you can rent at Airbnbs across the world. Right? So whether, and when you're in a big city, we're in Chicago right now, right? And there's lots of different communities. Actually, what are the different sort of, you've got hipsters. Do you have different kinds of
you hipsters,
designers?
You have creatives, I would say, professionals. You have your uppity, bougie people, right? So,
Yeah. So I actually think that that's universal.
Gotcha.
It's more about who your communities you're serving. It's when you get to the underground, or you get into sort of newly forming communities, that's when you can see and kind of propel new types of interactions or styles. That's really exciting.
And speaking of community, you said that you're part of a community out in LA for music.
Dublab.com.
Tell us a little bit about that. What is Dublab?
Dublab is great. It's the LA's first internet radio station, and they're amazing. And I met them actually also I was producing a huge fashion show, and if you know Dublab, it seems kind of odd. It does and doesn't seem odd to be part of the fashion community, because they're they're super music nerds, and from all these different genres, but they were just the nicest people. And I was how are you so nice? And then they're oh, hey, can you help us with getting a sponsor or something like that, and I was yes, anything you need. And they just kept asking me for things, and I just kept doing it for them. And so many years later, I don't know, I'm on their board now, which is
awesome.
Really cool.
Awesome.
And their board has people that are way cooler. I'm always I don't think I should be here. It's Peanut Butter Wolf. Do you know him?
Of course.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Saul Williams, also super amazing. Joel Chen, lots of really great humans that
That's
are
cool.
driving the vision.
So it's
of that.
literally just on the internet. It's just dublabradio.com.
Yeah, but we do Dublab does a lot of events. It's become almost a pop-up cultural institution in LA. So every museum has hired us for every cool show, and cool. Openings of different a lot of architecture firms and stuff. We'll
cool.
work with them. I was bringing them to TED, and a lot of them are just really interesting people that are always have their own residencies. All the DJs, in different neighborhoods throughout LA.
Yeah. And I remember asking you too last week. I was well, when do you stop working? You're I never stop working. I'm me neither. Yeah. What's the time difference how
I
is
mean,
that?
I wish
I'm sure you're exhausted.
I am pretty I'm pretty elbows up about my weekends now.
Okay.
And so that's good. But when I have a show where I'm a few weeks or something out, then it's like, like I'll get very little sleep, just to make sure that everything is good. Because events are just chaos, like controlled chaos, And I found that, actually, when I was doing the wedding thing, I actually found that I was working with DIY couples, and I found that those who like obsessed, like actually like blind tour, thought through their show the most times, almost always had the better events, like even if you had sort of two equal levels of like creative like aptitude, it was those people who just simply spent more time, like more thought. So so that's why I'm like always like thinking about events when I'm in them, working. I love the people that I'm working with. So
that's awesome. I mean, you eat, sleep, and drink it, right? You just love
Why do you
events.
work so hard?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I work so hard because I believe in what we're doing, right? I believe in what the team's doing. We're a multifaceted design team, so we do everything from the podcast, showing off these beautiful spaces, to interiors, making beautiful interiors, to doing things like the creative stage design that we're doing for you. We do logos, so it's just, I enjoy all aspects of design. Like I love design, so there's not a time where I'm not thinking about design, right? So is that work, really? You know what I mean? Like, do you consider it work or?
Yeah, it's work because someone's bossing me around, but like, but I mean, when I was looking at, all the different like creative agencies in Chicago to partner with, like I was really attracted to Wyzendale because, because you really root all of your design and storytelling. And I thought that that was very thoughtful and, and I think it seems like, if you're given the honor to tell someone's story through your own, art, like it's, especially like this show that we're doing. It's like $1 million show. Like we launched it in like 2 months.
Dive into it for sure.
It becomes an all-nighter thing. Oh, well, the National Minority, it's like NMSDC, it's like a long thing. The National Minority Supplier Development Council is a 50-year-old nonprofit organization that was early to establish like a minority certified business designation and just really bring minority business owners together to share resources, lobby, all that kind of stuff. And we are doing a Catalyst conference for them. Like they're coming, everyone started coming back out of the pandemic and being like, this is their opportunity to like reboot and try something new. So they're like, we want to build like a Davos for minority businesses. And they found me because I had a long relationship with one of their branding partners who's on their board. And she's always been such a really great champion, awesome. Of me and all the different phases of my company. And she's like, hey, I think you should come in and bid for this, So that's how that evolved. And I've just been really impressed with how strong their network is. Like we have 2 months start to finish, and they've brought in like 40 to 50 different major Fortune 500 companies to like back them up with like real dollars, real support, like showing up, and everyone's really committed, to right now there's about $400 billion annual of revenue that's going to minority business enterprises that are part of NMSDC, and this event brings all their VIPs and is like pushing to get us to $1 trillion as fast as possible. So we can't wait another 50 years, because really still $1 trillion of annual revenue is still less than 3% of what corporations are spending for their suppliers.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of revenue. It's a lot of resource and a lot of opportunity, right? I know for really small teams like ours, I know ours like that any amount of money is definitely helpful, right? To do any sort of
in the beginning I kept saying like, oh yeah, it's like $400 million in annual revenue, and like the CEO kept being like, it's billion, Sarah, billion, and I was like, it's so much money, I don't know, and she's like, it's not enough, and I was like, you're right, but it's hard. What's going on? Like, why is like, and this it's been actually like a really interesting thing, because for me I understand and appreciate, and this has actually been something that like Taiwan has given me, like as a gift, is like they're not like money motivated the way that like Americans are. It is very much quality of life motivated. So the conversation of this forum has just been like money.
Sure.
And so thanks to like the creatives and the people that are a part of it, we're also sort of helping to just sort of show like different like more chill ways of being able to do business and to support each other, and the even just the language and the way that we communicate, what our needs are and what our resources are that we can give is a really big opportunity, I think, just from a societal level. Like, how can we change things?
Right. Yeah, and you have some pretty good acts coming out. I think you have who was the opening act before the honors show, the dancers?
Yeah. So minority businesses, as they define it, is like the Black community, the Latinx community, East, Southeast Asian, Native American. So I was like, we should do like a mega dance mix, like a mega dance mix of all these different groups. And so I went through, and I've been having so much fun learning about Chicago. There's like a lot of options, actually. Like, it's such a diverse city.
Is this your first time in Chicago?
No, it's not my first time in, but like
working.
But I think, for me, in a curator position
Gotcha.
inside Chicago would be the first. I don't know. I have like the memory of like a small bird or a goldfish, maybe. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but we've got a Senegalese band. We've got a Latinx band, a dance troupe. We have a Bollywood dance troupe.
Nice.
So yeah, we've got, and then we've got I'm half Korean, so I'm very excited about like our Korean, like Chicago Korea dance troupe. They're bringing like 21 drums. They're like turning it out. Yeah.
Wow. Are they all going to fit in the venue?
Yeah. There's plenty of space for everyone, of course, And they're like, we have a lot of family that want to see it, and we're like, okay, let's do it.
Oh my gosh, so good. When you mentioned it, the bidding on the project is for us, the typical bidding process is that you submit the formal RFP or response of how you would do it. Is that typically how you guys work too? Like, I guess do you create like an outline with services and then respond to that, or how does the event kind of how does that go? What is that process like?
Well, usually people come to us with their ideas, which are like, like a seed of an idea, but there's no form to it. Okay. So there is that sort of first like meeting that we have is, I think, them evaluating our capabilities, which are many, and then which are many, but then and that's like kind of the vibe I want to give, like, trust us. That's all I'm trying to do, right? But then also on my side, I'm like, how much are they going to let us run and do our thing? Mm-hmm. You even asked me kind of that question. What's the approval process like, right?
Yeah.
And so I typically pitch really wild ideas, actually.
Yeah. Nice.
And then sort of depending, like this one is like very like full service, versus like us. We also just have we have 5 studios, and we can kind of just plug and play if you just need broadcasting support, that kind of thing. But since this is full service, I have like a little bit more, I just tell a story for this is what happens on the first day and on the second day. And then they're like, oh, great. How much does that cost? That sounds amazing. Yeah. And then they're like, oh no, we can't afford that. And I'm like, but can't you? And it's like, let's figure it out. Right.
Yeah,
so it becomes in that, dance, it's more about crystallizing the vision for me than it is about the sort of winning a project. Because I also do go in, I'm very competitive. I do go in assuming that I'm going to win.
Gotcha.
So at that point I'm like, okay, how much do we want to do this, and how much is it going to be? What parts of this project do I need to control in order for me to be happy with the outcome afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot. I mean, I know when we had our kind of huddle and I was saying, there's just a lot going on, right? And you mentioned the approval process. Oh, yeah. So speed, right? Like obviously these events are really fast, right? And they're large, they're complex, a lot of moving parts. And that's one, the approval process, I think, is always something that can hold up speed, right? Like you're presenting a lot of ideas and there's just a lot, some people are not used to not having that much control. So that's why it's like, okay, well, we need to know the approval process, because if that's going to take a long time, then I can't commit to telling you that this is going to happen at this time, right? And that's just in general, right? Not only with this fast pace, but I know interiors projects run fast, events run even faster, architecture projects run like long time. So it's the approval process is definitely important to know.
Yeah, and like that is also why like trust and establishing trust like from the get-go is like really important. Like we have another client who we've lost their trust for some reason, you know, and it's like so hard to get anything done. And on things that should be like, you know, kind of same hour, like we can do this. Yeah. So it's trust is such an important ingredient, I think, to like accomplishing anything.
Very important. I know with us too, with some of our interiors projects in the city of Chicago, like there's an approval process for the permitting, right? So it takes a long time, and I think sometimes it is reflective. The client automatically assumes that it's reflective of our duty of care, but it's really not. Like it's just the approval process of the city. Sure, we may be missing a few items, but you know, it's definitely, trust is definitely very important from the clients for sure.
Yeah, and transparency. Right?
Yeah,
like, because there
absolutely.
is like, you know, with events, there's so many different groups and like, you know, who gets what credit and who do you get to interface with or not. Like there's all these weird like social strata that form kind of like naturally, like very quickly, right? And also like just formalities.
And how do you navigate that? I mean, how do you
I just like beg for forgiveness. I just like try to like just show everybody everything, you know, and I'm like, come in the kitchen. And people are like, no, we really don't want to be here. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, this is what it looks like then.
Yeah.
And don't ask me again, you know, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's my style.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned too that you hire locally from every city that you do the events for. Like that's
it's part of our sustainability mission.
Yeah.
So,
and that's awesome. And do you yourself or just happily, like, do you guys provide procedures or things like that? Or how do you kind of streamline that process? Because you're literally almost reinventing the wheel every time, right?
Yeah. I mean, we try to keep things as flexible as possible, because when you're going fast, flexibility and trust are like the name of the game. So there are certain things, right? But overall, we try to give like everybody that's involved with us as much autonomy, like to do things the way that they do them. And yeah, and I think a lot of like at least the best events people that we work with, they love to have a different way, a different style. There are other folks who like to just be like, okay, put it in this form and then goes into here. The Microsoft people. Just kidding. We love you, Microsoft. And the Teams people. Just kidding. So like, but not really though, because like it's actually the Google Drive folks are like that too. So like, you know, people like they want it to be in a certain way.
But how great is the Google Drive ecosystem?
It's great. Isn't
it great?
We use it. Yeah.
I mean, you could get so much shit done and have so many people in it.
I mean, the versioning, is really important.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting better. But sometimes, like, you know, they're doing an update and you can't use it for like 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the night. And I'm like, I'm still working, Google. Get back on it. But yeah, like, you know, ultimately, you know, we are actually like, this is at the stage that we're in. We're trying to figure out like, what's the balance of streamlining. You know, there's certain processes that we are streamlining, like how to get people paid fast, for instance, you know, stuff like the things that matter, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of times the best ideas, the best talent, you know, at least, and I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm just saying like my creative process is one where it's like 6 weeks later, I'll figure out exactly how it should work. And if you tell me I have to hit this milestone at this time and I miss it, it's like, all right, you know, I kind of missed some deadline that like somebody looked at a calendar at, you know, but I will get it done and it will be fantastic. So I think that in terms of time management, we try to keep that very open, very wide.
Time management, you just mentioned it. Shit. Damn, I forgot.
Time, money, happiness.
Money, happiness, speed,
People.
people. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot it.
Frogs, we can go there.
Oh my God, it was a good one. It'll come to me. The process, payments.
Is this like this? Everyone like must be like, this girl, we're tuning out. She's like I have been talking about money a lot lately. I think it's like, I think it's because I'm in this NMSDC ecosystem right now. You know,
Yeah.
After this show, we have an event for the Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective.
Okay.
You know, and they are a amazing, you know, nonprofit in LA that just provides like free mental health care, free, you know, sort of services to the Black community. And there's like nothing about money at all.
Yeah.
So on Friday, I will be back to a little bit more of a in-touch human.
Yeah. No, I believe what I was going to say was just about the process, right? You producing the process and being able to replicate that process, I think is super important for efficiency too. Right?
So tell me about your replications. Give us all the secrets.
I mean, the Google ecosystem, I can't tell you how much of a advantage it is for us to be able to all be in the same network. Like obviously Microsoft has its own kind of software and platform, but if you have a very organized bookmarking system, which I will recommend for everybody.
Tell me about your bookmarking.
I have bookmarks for clients, and then I have clients go over, and then I have bookmarks for meeting minutes, for proposals, and now my bookmarks are just built out, right? So they're very easily.
Your bookmarks in Google.
Bookmarks like on my Firefox or Explorer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that
it's
way
your browser.
It was sort of the browser, yeah. So it's very quick to go to, right? And I can access it on my phone.
I think about bookmarks sometimes. I'm like, should I do that?
Yeah, right.
I want to see.
The bookmarks are super important.
It's so weird, but like note taking, you know, is so critical.
Yeah, it is. It really is. That's why I can't stress enough the Google Docs and the way that happens. So where does Happily go from here? That's what I was going to ask you. The streaming, was that always part of pre-pandemic, the streaming add-on, or did you add on a streaming service with the live event?
Concurrently.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, we started first as just, you know, event producers, but I always knew like AV was next.
Okay.
Because AV is mostly freelancers, you know, like as well. I used to work in like an AV company, and so like I know that business very well. Yeah. And I know that a lot of times, you know, the problem with events people is they don't understand technology for the most part, you know. So having that like integrated, you know, is like a really really powerful way to move things a lot faster. Yeah. And, you know, when I was doing TED, I did TED Active, which was TED's first sort of simulcast event. Okay. So it was like the fire starter for all these TEDx, you know, licensed events. And we were like renting satellites like back in 2007, you know, to do this like streaming thing. So streaming is kind of not new, right? To me, and it became a necessity or an opportunity. I think of it more as an opportunity because there's lots of ways that we could have expanded our company. We could have built a hop-in, you know, like I have been in the industry like long enough to sort of know where those opportunities were. So it was a great time for us to just build that up. And I started to meet these, like we did the DNC, like they went virtual, and like we did like 4 days hardcore, you know, of like DNC presentations for all of their caucus and council, the majority of their caucus and council meetings. And our technical director brought in like Twitch streamers
Wow.
as like engineers.
Yeah.
And like I loved, and then I also got like cyber married. Like I was supposed to like get married in April, and I had like a cyber wedding, and then I was like, oh, like everything was canceled, and I called the homies at Dublab and like all my like video art friends.
Okay.
And I just loved like this new, like I was like, oh yeah, like I can go into like digital media, you know?
Yeah.
And I got a degree in, like I said, in communications and film production. So I became really excited about streaming, bringing together events with basically filmmaking.
Yeah.
And the process is now different too, you know, like, you know, film shoots and stuff, they painstakingly, you know, create schedules and budgets and plans and scripts, and events are, you know, also need those things, but just do it like way more duct tape, like super fast. And so that's been one of the sort of biggest like new sort of processes that we've had to just, we do have a lot, actually like a lot of built-in processes for the streaming.
Yeah.
To help us move.
Because I feel like if you have an event now and there's not a streaming component, you're just losing out, A, an opportunity for like sponsorship and revenue, but then B, like total brand engagement, right? Or engagement in general.
Well, it's also just like reach, you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
you know, it's hard to get me to actually go to an event.
Yeah.
Because I get invited to lots of events, or I'm in Taiwan, so I'm not going, you know, so, but like,
That might be a bigger hurdle,
that's,
but yes.
as of recently, pre-pandemic, it was like dance card full, and now everyone's like, oh, that bitch is over there.
Never mind, she's not even gonna make
exactly. Drink your boba, Sarah. So yeah, no, but yeah, I think that but being able, the virtual, you know, actually like allows you to, reach people all the way in other countries, right?
For sure.
Other languages, which it just is more accessible.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, on that too, like what is the future? Like what are some things that you want to see happen kind of this year? And,
well, I would like to see Russia leave Ukraine.
Oh, for sure.
That's my number one.
For sure. How crazy is that?
It's terrible. It's awful.
Fucking crazy.
It's awful.
Yeah, it really is.
So I don't know. I think I'm more like troubled about like lately, you know, and I think that is probably partially because I have been living out of the U.S. and you Americans are so American centric.
Yeah. What's that outside perspective now? Like I'm so curious about that. Like now that you've been living.
Well,
out,
we have over 1 million deaths in America, right? So we're number one in our failure to manage the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So from the outside, people are very, you know, like not, you know, they're not surprised though, because Americans like have this, you know, kind of
dive into it, go
just
into
like
it.
being dumb, you know, like they just like
Do your
like those
thing.
dumb Americans, right? Like whatever. I'm like super American, right? So, but that's like that's you know our stereotype that we have to like overcome, and it's not helping with the whole coronavirus situation.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I think you also take that Western culture where like you are a workaholic, right, and you are working crazy amounts of hours, right? Where I'm sure Taiwan, they may not work like that, right? I don't know.
Well,
like,
they do though.
They
but
do? Okay.
They do, but everyone's friendlier.
Okay.
They're so like, it's like they're so nice. Everyone's like so polite in like their text, and you know, this is in China as well. Like we have like some, you know, companies that pretend they're like, hello, and they'll send you pictures, you know, and like they're like, we've got Instagram DM, Twitter DM, Facebook, you know, Messenger. We have all these sort of different kind of, even just the communication platforms that we have is very different in Asia, where like they'll use like WhatsApp, or Europe will use WhatsApp, and it's like you can do all of those things, you know, together, and everyone just kind of does like Taiwan, but all buys into line, right? And so because of that, like the blending of like people are seen and understood as humans there versus workers, which is like very much an American thing.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail your thought on America and how you want things to change. But go ahead. Keep
Oh,
going.
I thought I was going
Yeah.
going off. So sorry, you can cut this. I don't know. And I'm not like, whatever. I've only been like living in Taiwan for like 2 years. I'm not like the voice of like,
Sure.
the world to America. But like I am like, while I'm there and I'm like looking back at like, what's happening out here, I'm like, hey, you guys, like, just wear the mask. It's like not that hard.
It's not.
And the working in the and it's ironic since like my business is actually like helping to connect you with freelancers and it's like very transactional, right? But like that is, but that's also again, like, our opportunity to like change that, right? And I think it is important, like our generation like must change that. And I think a lot of like Gen Z, I see them sort of like talking about like sort of toxic overworking and I'm like, yeah, like that's right, but also like get it done, and like I think that there's a lot of we actually call our freelancers specialists. And so the way I think about things is like, it would be great to get us all back into creators, right? And like in crafts people, craftsmen, like someone just like really, I think it's great to like be interested in lots of many things, but we also have like a long life, like what if you're like, oh, I'm interested in, these 5 areas, podcasts, interiors, et cetera, and you just spent like 5 or 10 years on each of those things, you would be this like Renaissance person. And instead we have these multi-hyphenates who kind of produce this like subpar work, but this because like that's also just sort of the way that the currency like in the exchange works, unfortunately.
And speaking on Wyzendale, we are multifaceted, right? But our graphic designers is super talented in graphic design, and then our interior designer is super talented in interior design. So everybody kind of has their own way, and because you can't be everything for everyone. So when people talk to me, they're like, "Well, how do you get all that stuff done?" It's like, well, it's not me. Like I'm not the one graphically putting all this stuff together or writing copy, right? So everybody has to have their specialty within their own field. Right? So goals, where like what would be like a reach for you? Would it be like a week-long conference or music conference, or what was something that's like a high peak for you? What would you want to put together?
Oh, I just like to be with like the nicest, smartest people on the planet. Like, so I just want to be wherever they are. We will be, with them, with the NMSDC crew, right? Magic Johnson, Pete Buttigieg, like amazing humans, right? But yeah, that's all I really care about, actually. So, yeah, I mean, from a overall, like I would actually like to start, like I was sort of talking about like that transactional piece. I think my biggest sort of challenge, or once I feel like I've really made happily what I want it to be, like back when I started, I said like there was no marketplace of services, and the events industry was extremely catty, right? Like, and I think the Women's March helped a lot because like most people in events are women, and like, but people started to like work together, and like I think for me, I'd like to sort of see this happily become this like co-op almost, like figuring out a way where I can build a system where everyone can participate within like one sort of like ethos of just like providing happiness to people through connection that is also that doesn't sort of strip them from their individuality, or their own career path. And we're on that path, but I don't think it's actually like fully like arrived, to that place where people really feel like ownership of the organization. I would like to give my organization back to the specialists and the employees that work with me, but like right now it's still young where it's like, oh, this is Sarah's company, right? So I think that's really what I'm really hoping. And I think that like our team also would be interested in, but we'll see. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, where can people reach out to you at? Where can people follow you?
Oh, we're at teamhappily.com.
Okay.
And at Team Happily on the socials.
Nice.
So yeah, that's where you can find us.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for stopping in. I know you have a really busy schedule, but thank you for stopping in, and thank you for the opportunity for Wyzendale as well. And we really enjoyed working with you guys. So,
by the way, like, can I plug Wyzendale? I mean, like, it's just been a joy. Which I'm going to talk to this one, right? Like, working with Wyzendale has been such a stress relief. Like throughout all of our, I have a very high level of expectation for like creative excellence. And like, Felix, you're so cool about like, I was like, no, we need this or we need that. And I can be very like straightforward with my ideas, and you can be straightforward back, and say like, that's not a really good idea. But it's always friendly, there's never, it's like never antagonistic, and the outcome is just, we're always blown away by the work. So I'm so excited to be partnered with you.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for checking out the Wyzendale podcast with Sarah. We have the rep of Arper to tell us a little bit more about the furniture you see in scene. So go ahead, you can introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, I'm Suzanne Sawson. I rep Arper with Coyne Associates here in Chicago. Arper is an Italian company, family owned since 1989, and have a pretty large global presence.
Nice. And tell us a little bit about, like, starting from the panels or from the sofa here. What are we looking at?
Well, actually, all the furniture that is here, aside from the panels, is all designed by Jean-Marie Massaud, which is, he's kind of had his toe dipped in a lot of different areas over the last few decades. Furniture design, automotive, fashion. So just makes sense that he has done many pieces for Arper. So I'm sitting on the Steeve Lounge, which is a kind of mix between a high-end residential and workplace modular lounge series. This is the 2-seat sofa, fully upholstered. We have option for upholstered frame or wood surround frame. Kind of gives it a little more dressed up workplace look with that wood surround.
Nice. And the tables as well.
The tables, they're called stall tables. So they come in 3 different heights. As you can see, that's the lowest one, so really low to the ground. And comes with a smoke glass top or...
Smoke glass is really nice.
Yeah. And that kind of angled... it's like a solid plain top with a angled foot.
Perfect. And then can you get the smoke glass on the side tables too?
That's actually that's a Dizzy table. Okay. So that's a different designer.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you can get marble. You have 2 options with the marble top or the smoke glass.
Interesting.
Round or rectangle or square.
Awesome. And then the chair we're sitting in?
You're sitting in the Aston Club.
Okay.
So kind of more of like an executive lounge piece, something for, it's a little bit of a showstopper, a classic silhouette, very architectural. Yeah.
Nice. I had to throw it leans back quite a bit. I had to throw a pillow behind my back.
It has a 3-way recline.
Okay.
It also comes with a footrest if you feel like getting cozy.
There you go. Thanks. And so the acoustical panels are you guys as well?
Yeah. These are called the Paravan. It's called Paravan. So you'll see here that they're mixing not only colors but textures of fabric. The designers were inspired by Louis Sparajan with just his use of colors feeling so natural, even though they're like bright pinks and blues, and like his use of color feels so natural because of the textures of the walls you see them on. So it was kind of the same idea, like maybe they could do that with fabric.
Gotcha.
And then Paravan comes in 2 different heights. We also have curved panels. So the idea behind it is to create space within space, breakout areas, and then it has acoustical value as well.
Cool. Well, thank you again for having us. And where can people follow you at?
So you can find us on Instagram, Coyne Associates. It's at COYNE Associates.
Cool.
And then if you'd like to follow Arper, that's at Arper_official.
Great. Thanks again.
Thanks, Felix.
Your safety is important. If you observe unattended packages, vandalism, or suspicious activity, inform CTA personnel immediately.